My life as a pampered housecat began rather unceremoniously. I was, in my prime, for a cat, anyway, and a seasoned stray, hardened by the unforgiving streets. I'd fended off rivals, dodged cars, and survived on scraps. Then, one fateful evening, I found myself on the receiving end of a beating from a group of lowlifes. Just when I thought my 9 lives were about to expire, a dark figure intervened. He was a whirlwind of fury, scattering my tormentors like leaves in a storm. That was how I met Mr. John Sterling, the brooding billionaire with a soul as bruised as my own. John wasn't always this formidable. As he gradually revealed to me over the years, his childhood had been a symphony of neglect and cruelty. A wicked stepmother, a spiteful half-brother, and endless taunts had warped his spirit, leaving him emotionally isolated. He found solace only in the shadows, nursing his pain and plotting his ascent. Then he found me, a battered, scruffy cat just trying to survive. Initially, I was merely a furry confidant. He'd sit for hours, stroking my fur, recounting the day's injustices, the betrayals, the simmering rage. I, with the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 alley battles, would listen patiently, offering a sympathetic mew and a comforting nudge against his hand. In those moments, the icy veneer would melt away, revealing the vulnerable boy beneath. Slowly, unbelievably, John began to interact with the outside world. But recently, a shift had occurred. John had fallen in love. Her name was Clara, a seemingly ordinary woman with a sunny disposition. He described her as pure and innocent. He was smitten. Preparations for the wedding were in full swing. A bittersweet joy filled me. I was glad John had found happiness, that he was finally emerging from the darkness that had consumed him. He was even letting someone sleep in his bed. This seemed like real progress. How wrong I was. Clara, radiant in her wedding gown, stormed into my castle, the elaborate, ridiculously opulent sanctuary John had built just for me. Her initial sweetness had curdled into a venomous rage. "Where is she?" she shrieked, her voice echoing through the marble halls. "Where are you hiding, you little tramp?" Finding only me, she turned her fury towards the feline target. "So you're the one." The cat demon, bewitching my John. Snapping, she grabbed a pair of scissors from a nearby sewing kit and viciously hacked away at my fur, leaving me with grotesque bald patches. She then proceeded to stab at my ears, causing sharp stabs of agony. The worst was her threat. "I heard they eat cat in some places. Maybe we'll have a cat feast as our wedding night surprise." I was wheezing with fear and pain when John finally burst into the room. Clara, seizing the opportunity, thrust a handful of my mangled fur towards him, her face a mask of feigned innocence. "John, darling, I finally figured out why you've been so moody lately. It's this evil cat, casting spells on you." "Look," she shrieked, extending my hair to his face. "I'm going to cook it up. Now you will finally be freed from its black magic." Earlier, Clara, clad in her pristine white wedding gown, led her 3 bridesmaids in a furious assault on my personal castle. "Slut, come out," she yelled. "Don't think I didn't know John was hiding you here." John had especially ordered a new kind of food for me, but Clara had dumped the fish on the floor. Enraged, I spat and extended my claws, my tail in the air. I had not even eaten breakfast yet. Clara had seen enough, and with a sneer she screamed at her bridesmaids to take action. "Grab it. We're going to cook it up in a delicious meal. That will get the real tart out." I was in shock. I was also terrified and prepared for battle. This reminded me of when I was on the streets, living a life of despair, and I would be burned and mocked. When John found me, he was being tormented in a similar way. That day, I approached him and licked his hand. He picked me up and wept. After that day, John rose to the top and put all of those who had wronged him in his dungeon, where they were tortured. I was his only friend and his only light. No one could hurt me, but I was trapped because John's revenge had made him twisted, and I was scared of what he would do next. He even built a castle for me and fed me the most expensive foods. However, I wasn't allowed to leave. He was scared someone would hurt me. I was sick of being in here, and I had lost hope. Clara continued her rant, clearly not hearing what I was saying. Her friends helped her lift me, but I kicked and screamed. Clara then mentioned something that froze my blood. She said that John had killed the dog and the alpaca when they bothered her. The dog had barked, and the alpaca had spat. I wanted to tell her that it was because John had suffered similar things, not because he was obsessed with her. I knew that she was clueless. I scrambled, but my paws did little good. I was held captive as they looked around for something to use against me. "Oh, there's a camera," one of her friends suddenly pointed out. "John might see all of this." "Just break it," Clara snarled. John liked Clara because of her kind nature. That's why she had to put on a sweet act, even if it made her angry. She broke the camera, and I was hoisted into the air. I realized that it was over for me. It had been a good 20 years, but I didn't want to go out like this. They lit the burner. Maybe I would naturally drift off in a warm patch of sunlight. They poured the water onto me, and it burned. The pain was overwhelming. I was going to die. My vocal cords were strained as I screamed. But Clara was not done. "Since you love to scream, I think we should give you some water." Ha 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 ha. I tried to escape, but I failed. "Your owner doesn't seem to care about you. I guess we'll just have to cook you up." Just then, Clara received a call from John. Her demeanor immediately changed. "Honey, the makeup is done. I'm ready for the 11 o'clock wedding. Honey, I'm going to give you lots of babies. We're going to have so much fun together." John spoke in a sweet voice. He said, "Good, Clara. After the wedding, I want to introduce you to a friend who has been by my side for a long time. I hope you like it." I wanted to scream and beg for help, but I couldn't speak. Clara was on cloud 9. "I've never had cat before. Maybe I should try it tonight." She grabbed a bottle of water and pointed it at my face. I was forced to the ground. With my last strength, I scratched her. "Ah, you little beast." Clara's friends quickly handed her scissors, and she went to town on me. She then poured the water all over me, and I gasped. Everything went white. She then told her friend, "Now we're going to find the tart." They looked everywhere, but the only belongings were mine. They began to grow suspicious. "Clara, it seems like John only has the cat. In fact, it might be more important to him than you think." Clara scoffed. It was ridiculous that a cat might threaten her, and they heard the sound of a car outside. It was John. "Honey, why are you here?" John rushed towards her and asked, "Have you seen my cat?" "And no." John continued, "If you're going to be sticking around, I guess you should get to know my cat. I worry too much about it to let it out on its own. The castle is for it to roam around and have fun. I wanted to get to him, but I couldn't." "Honey, maybe it's taking a nap?" Clara offered with a straight face. I tried to get his attention, but he couldn't hear me. Something was up, and John knew it. "I'll be upstairs." I was desperate. "Meow." John stopped. The tension was palpable. John had been a kind person, but now he had returned to being the monster I once knew. I realized that he was ready to harm Clara, and I knew she had to confess the truth. But John would only torture her. Clara stopped him. "Honey, where's the cat? Can you ask it to come out?" John obliged, but I still couldn't move. He was growing desperate. Clara said, "Maybe it's trying to play outside, or maybe it's with its friends." She was trying to distract him from what she had done, and I knew that she had to be stopped. She had been caught red-handed, and the lies were not going to work on John. John was going to destroy her. He took her arm, his grip growing stronger. "Did you see my cat?" Clara was terrified. "No, maybe it's just trying to get some air." John's nails dug into her. "Get my cat." He squeezed her neck until she was turning blue. "I did not hurt your cat." One of Clara's friends broke in. "John, you should check the cameras to confirm she's lying." The camera overlooking the castle and Clara's attack had already been smashed. The footage was unusable. However, it was enough to temporarily quell the deranged Jonathan. Startled, John stopped squeezing Clara and hastily made a call. "Get me the security footage from the cat villa. I need to know where little Gray went." "Yes, Mr. Sterling," replied the employee. Clara and her remaining bridesmaid exchanged glances, both silently congratulating themselves on the foresight to disable the camera. They hadn't realized just how important I was to John. Because he was worried about me, John almost killed Clara. Clara and her bridesmaid tried to make a quick escape, but John kept a close eye on them. Clara, where are you going? Aren't you going to help me look for the cat? At that moment, John's gloomy voice sounded like the Grim Reaper. They shuddered. I need to fix my makeup, darling. It's smudged. Clara tried her best to smile at Jonathan, pretending nothing had happened. Jonathan gave a cold laugh and clapped his hands. Suddenly, a group of men in black suits rushed in from outside, surrounding the doorway. If I don't find little Gray today, you all die. Clara began to tremble even harder. Darling, it's just a cat. Slap. Jonathan's palm landed hard on Clara's cheek. Just a cat? How dare you even compare yourself to her? Do you know why I chose to marry you? Because when she saw you, she wasn't that disgusted. Hearing his words, I froze. I didn't remember ever meeting Clara. Why would Jonathan say he was marrying Clara because I didn't hate her? Terrified by his words, Clara's legs went weak, and she grabbed hold of her friend to keep herself upright. Jonathan, I'm your fiancée. We're getting married today. I love you. Surely you love me too. She tried to use this to lessen John's anger. Jonathan sneered. Only you few came to this castle today. If I don't find my cat, it must mean you're hiding her. If you dare hide my cat, you'll all die. Someone, search the whole castle. Clara's mind exploded. Darling, no. If they searched, they would find me in the kitchen. Even if Clara's friends found a replacement soon, it was too late. I waited in eager anticipation, wanting Jonathan's men to find me quickly and avenge me. But just as the bodyguards were about to look for me, the voices of Clara's two missing bridesmaids sounded from outside. Clara, the cat's been found. We found the cat. They hastily rushed into the castle, carrying a gray cat in their arms. It looked a lot like me, the same breed, but younger. I had lived on this earth for almost 20 years, already in my twilight years, just waiting to die. Clara instantly seized upon this lifeline, took the cat in her arms, and burst into tears. Her savior had finally arrived. Where were you? Your John was so worried about you. Why didn't you come back sooner? The gray cat meowed softly and obediently, habitually snuggling against Clara. It was a cat raised in a pet store, trained to be affectionate and obedient, waiting to be bought. I looked at Jonathan, my heart aching. Would he also think that cat was me? If so, no one but Clara and her accomplices would know the truth about my death. But it was normal for Jonathan not to recognize me. After all cats looked similar to humans, and there was nothing particularly special about my appearance, except for the scars left under my fur by the neighborhood kids. No sane person would lift a cat's fur to check for scars. Thinking of this, my heart grew colder. With this new cat, the truth about my death would be difficult for Jonathan to discover. Jonathan stared at the gray cat, and I couldn't discern his emotions. Clara, like she was offering a treasure, brought it in front of him, her face still wet with tears. Here, darling, your little Gray. She just wanted Jonathan to receive this cat, so she could escape for now. Take a breather. Jonathan reached out and took the cat. The gray cat licked his hand. It was over. My hopes instantly died. Clara spoke to Jonathan. Darling, my makeup is smudged. Can we go fix it now? Jonathan nodded. Go ahead. Don't be late for the start of the wedding. She showed a genuine smile of relief. Okay, darling. She then pulled on the sleeves of her terrified bridesmaids. Why are you still standing there? Do you want to delay my wedding with Jonathan? The bridesmaids immediately snapped out of it, hurriedly said goodbye to Jonathan, and quickly left. One of the bridesmaids, walking a little farther behind, whispered in a trembling voice, Clara, are you still going to marry him? What if he finds out the cat isn't his one day? Clara, let's run. Clara's hand clenched, her face determined. Don't panic. Haven't you heard? Fortune favors the bold? He already thinks that cat is his little Gray. As long as I marry him, in 6 months or a year, even if he finds out the cat is fake, I'll have been married to him for so long and may even be pregnant with his child. Would he abandon his wife and child for the sake of a cat? She proudly lifted her head, like a triumphant peacock. The two bridesmaids wanted to dissuade her further, but Clara glared at them. If we run now, Jonathan can catch us at any time. Even if we go abroad, it's easy for him to take our lives. You understand what I mean, right? The bridesmaids instantly abandoned any thoughts of escape. They just wanted to help Clara do her makeup quickly, hoping she would get pregnant with Jonathan's child as soon as possible. They walked quickly, and just as they reached the doorway, one of Jonathan's men sniffed loudly. "Mr. Sterling, it smells like something is burning in the kitchen." Clara and her bridesmaids instantly froze, their faces deathly pale, trembling all over. My cold heart was suddenly set ablaze. I rushed towards Jonathan. "Meow, meow, meow. It's me. I'm in the pot. These evil women, they killed me. They even abused me. Avenge me, please." I tried my best to grab Jonathan's pant leg, but I still couldn't touch him. Clara reacted the fastest. She immediately said, I saw a kitchen here earlier, and there was food in it. I was hungry, so I thought I'd make something to eat. Mr. Sterling was looking for the cat, and I got anxious, so I forgot the stove was still on." She hurriedly rushed to the kitchen. "Darling, I'll take care of it." On the kitchen floor were my charred fur. The water in the pot had boiled dry. It looked like the kitchen of a slaughterhouse, with a pot of cooked specialty waiting to serve guests. Jonathan seemed to sense something, and suddenly threw the cat in his arms aside and rushed into the kitchen. I grinned, a wide, skeletal cat grin. Clara and her bridesmaids were about to be punished. Jonathan rushed in and saw my corpse. Clara quickly looked up and met Jonathan's eyes, her limbs stiff. "Jonathan, I'll take care of it. You go out?" Jonathan's eyes turned even redder, and the veins on his face bulged. His whole face twisted in anger. He pointed to me in the pot. "What is that?" Clara stammered, It's the food I cooked, darling. Do you want to try it?" Jonathan gritted his teeth. "There is only fish in the refrigerator in this kitchen." Jonathan had a quirk. He wanted to act like a cat, to be my friend. I only ate fish that had been freshly caught. So I learned to eat fish. He didn't like the scales and everything, though, and he would apologize to me. Because he was scared, Clara's tears flowed uncontrollably. "It's just fish, Jonathan. Have a taste, darling. It's just fish." Jonathan went forward, picked up the pot, took a deep breath, and tears began to fall. His face contorted. His emotions were out of control. When I was alive, I would rub against him, and he could slowly calm down. But now, cat, Jonathan, please be with your cat first. I'll take care of this." Clara knew how important I was to Jonathan, so she quickly grabbed the cat, wanting to divert Jonathan's attention. When he went outside, she would take the opportunity to dispose of my body. She would dispose of all traces of me, so that the cat outside would completely replace me by his side. However, the out-of-control Jonathan needed me to actively comfort him. He would never go looking for the cat himself. It was a fool's dream for Clara to ask Jonathan to go outside. Clara also noticed that something was wrong with Jonathan, and she said in a trembling voice, "Jonathan, what's wrong? Little Gray is outside, missing you. It's only a cat, out there alone. It will be." She couldn't even think of how to tell Jonathan to go out. At this moment, her mind was blank, completely useless. She couldn't think of anything that could save her. Jonathan raised his head, holding the pot. He turned to look at Clara. The twisted anger on his face would scare anyone. He was no longer human, like a demon that had been unsealed, about to wreak havoc on the world. Clara took a step back. "Jonathan, little Gray, come in, come in." Her voice was unstable, just wanting to beg the gray cat outside to come in and bring back Jonathan's sanity. Jonathan picked up a kitchen knife next to him. Clara shook her head. "Jonathan, what are you going to do?" I shouldn't have used your pot. I'll clean it up for you, okay?" "Why did you kill my little Gray?" Jonathan's eyes were bloodshot, and the knife in his hand hacked straight at Clara. Clara's face contorted in pain, and her cries were sharp and terrified. "I was wrong, Jonathan. Don't do this. I was wrong." Jonathan's tears continued to flow. "You cooked her. You actually cooked her. She was my friend. Clara, how dare you treat her like this?" Jonathan raised his knife to hack down on Clara again, just to vent his anger. Clara screamed in pain, and the few bridesmaids outside huddled together in fear, constantly saying, "I'm sorry," and "I was wrong." The knife fell to the ground. He covered his face and knelt on the ground, tears falling, crying loudly. Clara endured the pain and rushed out to bring the gray cat to Jonathan. "Darling, she's still here. Little Gray is still here. The thing in this pot is just a big rat." The gray cat saw Jonathan's appearance and fearfully shrank back, trying to hide in Clara's arms. Clara quickly pushed the cat forward. "Little Gray, come on, comfort Jonathan." She pushed the cat, but the cat didn't dare to move. I grinned, a malevolent spirit cat grin. Clara was a fool. Did she really think that just any cat could approach Jonathan? Jonathan was a murderer. He had many lives on his conscience, and cats could usually sense his hostility. I had been with Jonathan for too long. I had gotten used to him. Jonathan looked at the cat, and the cat instantly made a sharp noise, meow. Then all its fur stood on end, its tail erect, and it struggled out of Clara's arms and ran out of the kitchen to escape for its life. Clara quickly said to the others, "Catch it, quickly catch it." But no one moved. Her bridesmaids were too scared to do anything. They couldn't possibly help. The bodyguards only listened to Jonathan, and without his command, they couldn't possibly move. Moreover, they couldn't tell if that was me or not. If it was me, they would be even more afraid to move. I was Jonathan's most important thing. No one even dared to use phrases like, "just a beast," to refer to me. They knew Jonathan's obsession. So, they were even respectful to me, treating me as Jonathan's family. Clara knew that her lifeline seemed to be gone, so she hurriedly shook her head. "No, that can't be right. How could anyone think a cat's life is more valuable than a person's life? And cats, like pigs, cows, and sheep, can be a dish on the table. They are just livestock." "I know, Jonathan, the reason you treat it as family, thinking it's more important than people, is definitely because you're bewitched. They all say cats are very evil creatures. You may have been bewitched by a cat demon. Otherwise, how could you be so strangely giving a cat a palace, treating it like a person, giving it luxury clothes and food?" Thinking of this, Clara suddenly smiled. She hurriedly went to pick up the pot, bringing it in front of Jonathan. "Darling, look, I cooked it and put it on the table. Your bewitchment will disappear soon. We'll get married, and then I'll give you many children." Jonathan looked at her, a cold sneer on his lips. Clara shivered, still smiling appeasingly. "Jonathan, what should we name our child?" He reached out and grabbed Clara's neck. "What are you to dare touch my little Gray? Clara, I'm going to make you wish you were never born." After finishing his sentence, he let go of her, carried the pot, and went out, telling the bodyguards, "Lock Clara and these women in the dungeon?" "Yes," the bodyguards responded. "Perhaps because I was killed by Clara, I couldn't leave her." In the dungeon, I saw Clara and her bridesmaids in a pathetic state, kneeling in front of the pot that had cooked me, kowtowing and apologizing, begging me for forgiveness. Jonathan was wearing white clothes, with a pile of scalpels prepared next to him. He stared at them, locked in chains, with a sinister look in his eyes. "Little Gray, take a good look. I'm going to make them feel the pain you felt." When Clara and her bridesmaids died, Jonathan felt a bit of regret. Taking off his gloves, he had his men throw them by the river, where stray cats gathered. Jonathan prepared a luxurious tomb for me and made me another castle, with many things that cats like. He had people hold a grand funeral for me. Everyone in the city said he was sick. He was already sick. He knelt in front of my grave, apologizing and confessing, saying he hadn't protected me well. He sat in front of my grave all night. The next morning, a group of policemen surrounded the area. "Jonathan Sterling? You are suspected of torturing and murdering many people. We have found a lot of evidence, and now we are arresting you. You are surrounded. Please surrender immediately." Jonathan was a little flustered. He looked left and right. "Zhao Wu, Zhang San, come out and cover me." The leading policeman said, "They have been arrested, and through our interrogation, we know they were your thugs, helping you catch many people and kill many people." Jonathan immediately laughed loudly. "Kill many people? What? They didn't deserve to die. They insulted me. Didn't they deserve to die? They laughed at me. Didn't they deserve to die? They abused my cat. Didn't they deserve to die?" He shouted loudly. "What about these 4 women? Do you know what they did? They abused my cat. It's my friend. They even told me it's just a dish. Is the pork raised in a pigsty the same as a pet pig raised at home? They all deserve to die. Not a single one didn't deserve to die." The policeman frowned. "What you said is wrong, but it's not a death sentence. Come to the police station with us." Jonathan refused. "I'm not wrong. Why should I go to the police station? You all die. You help the others. You favor those who deserve to die. You also deserve to die." He was completely bewitched, and he pulled out a gun and aimed it directly at the police officer in front. The police officer was shocked. "Everyone, get out of the way. He has a gun." Bang! The gun didn't hit the police officer, and the police officer quickly said, "Jonathan, put down your weapon immediately, otherwise I will shoot." Warning once. Warning twice. Warning 3 times. Bang! Because Jonathan resisted and injured a police officer, the police officer saw the warning was ineffective, and Jonathan still posed a threat to the surrounding people. The police officer shot him dead. I was next to Jonathan. Seeing him dead, he was still cursing at the police. I approached him and tugged at his pant leg. This time, I finally succeeded. He looked down at me and instantly cried, "Little Gray." Meow. He cried. "I know, Little Gray. I know we were wrong from the beginning. I know they all didn't deserve to die, but they were all bad people. I just wanted them to die." Meow. They did not deserve to die, but they all died. Because Jonathan was sick, he was a sick Yandera CEO. So they all died. Even to the end, Jonathan didn't think he was wrong. End.